Hello, everyone. So here we are today, three of us, to speak on the topic diversity and inclusion. I suppose many of you might be knowing it, many of you might be unaware of it. Before that, let me introduce my panelists. She's Diana Phillip from Dell, and she is Victoria from Ex- Experto Dojo. Yeah, that's a word. Okay, so she is into investment and she is from the corporate segment. So we have two ladies here who could speak about diversity and inclusion much. So as you all know, diversity and inclusion are interconnected concepts which help people who are in a community who are weaker or kind of not getting attention. This particular segment called diversity, equity, and inclusion help them to get support and visibility from the other segments of the ecosystem. So let me just begin. I'll start with her first. Okay. So Victoria, my question to you is, as I said about diversity and inclusion, what exactly is your concept about diversity and inclusion, and why do you think it is essential?
So, I can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. So apparently they can hear me. So, hi everybody. Hi everybody. Um, my name is Victoria Meron. I am an investor at Expert Dojo, one of the biggest accelerator based in Southern California, and we invest globally around the globe. And for us, that diversity inclusion is very, very important, and having a gender lens into our startup and our own team is very important as well. Personally, I believe in an energy of a yin and yang. I truly believe yin and yang together, they produce, and that's the most important thing that we are bringing on to the startups environment and to the work environment. It brings different aspect to the productivity and perspective and creation of a new ideas, and that's very important for us as an entity to incorporate that into our corporate structure.
So no wonder why did the Indian girl turned up into the dojo. I got it. So let's come back to Diana. Diana is from Dell. Yes, Diana. So my question to you is, what is your concept on diversity and inclusion, and why do you think it is essential?
Thank you so much for that question. Am I audible to the audience? Yeah. What is amazing is that I see incredible number of men sitting in the audience. First, I would love to ask you all a question. What do you think is diversity and inclusion?
Anyone? The question is, what do you think about diversity and inclusion? You don't know. He doesn't know. Anybody? Nobody. Thank you. Okay, can
So,
continue.
Look, it's a very simple thing. We talk about an inclusive world where, not just genders exist together, we sit together, have conversations, work together, but we're talking about diversity in thoughts, diversity of opinions, religions, you know. We are also talking about the kind of multiplicity of genders itself, the LGBTQIA plus community, right? There are a lot of times we see that it's always segregated or put in different sort of silos. The idea of diversity and inclusion is bringing everyone together, right? And that is at least my opinion. I would love to hear your opinion and thoughts on it. And especially, like, do you think it's important, or do you think this is better? Men, women, we're sitting here, you guys all sit there, okay, we won't talk to each other, okay, we'll do all of that. Or do you think that it's better for us to come together, right? For me, whatever I've observed over a period of time, working in different parts of the world, the company that I worked in, there was a stark realization that unless you bring people from different backgrounds, right? Whether it's gender, like I said, whether it's religion, whether it's ethnicity, culture, all of them, you're not going to have an inclusive growth, right? It actually impacts business. The numbers, if you start to notice, you'll realize that your business growth increases when you actually bring in, apologies, I think there's just like two people speaking at the same time. But
That is also a diversity,
well,
and she's still creating inclusiveness.
but so that's essentially what it is. Why do you think it's important? Because we all think differently, we all bring in different strengths. The idea is to actually come together and harness it together, right? And that's how we move forward, right? And that's the innovative thinking that we're talking about. So that's diversity and inclusion.
Absolutely, absolutely, Dinah. So just for you people sitting out here, diversity doesn't mean only women, okay? Diversity means those inclusive sectors which have not got highlight in past, it's in past, right? Today women are in workforce as well. So it's not only for women, again it's for the LGBT clan and then for the physically disabled people. So now in India, basically diversity, equity and inclusion, the three major sectors are women, LGBT and physically disabled people. Like she said, since our country is known for diversity, whether it be religion, whether it be color, whether it be the thought process. And that's the reason why we are getting amazing startups out here. As Victoria rightly said, she feels that Indian startups are amazing. The reason is that because we have different kind of flavors out here. For example, right now, as she said, one session is going out here, one panel is going out here. But still, even in diversity, we are creating inclusiveness. We are creating that that aura wherein people from different sector with different skill set who have core expertise, they combine together to give their best. So what happens? The result is the productivity at its best. And when startups or the ecosystem or the professional get together in an ecosystem, what happens is that there's no doubt on the fact that the GDP of the country will definitely shoot. So that is, in simple words, in nutshell, she said it. It is diversified thoughts, but together we create, collaborate, bring in synergies, and the impact is magic and wonderful. I think I said it, yeah. Again, coming back to you, Victoria, the second question to you is kind of like, you are an investor. She's don't take her like a beautiful blondie alone. She's an angel investor. She individually is an investor, and as well as she is a member of an accelerator in US, California. So, like I said, she is very much interested in the Indian startup because of their energy, passion, and again, diversity. So my question to you is, being a woman, you're empathetic, you love all these diversified facts, and you're a very energy-giving person, the yin-yang girl. But again, coming to the investor part, an investor should be very smart because he or she is putting their money there. Then these two emotions are actually contradictory. So again, diversify. So how do you put it across? How exactly you choose your right startup?
So I think compassionate is something that it brings a lot of value, because if you listen to people and have a compassion for them, it allows you to find their strengths and weaknesses in the same time, evaluate them and put them in perspective for them. So you can guide them to the right direction. Even if you don't invest in the company, you can direct them to the right direction. Most of the time, investors, they don't think that these two combine together, because you need to put your analytical hat when you are evaluating a startup. But I truly think that these two complement one another, because listening part and understanding the story of entrepreneur, what journey they've been through and what journey they are going through, it allows you to be a very good outsider and a consultant for them to take them to the next step that they need to take.
Wonderfully answered. Like she said, it's like a marriage between the startup and the investor. So to have a solid relation, understanding is very much important. Again, two diversified sector, collaborating towards each other. Okay. So again, Dinah, let me just ask you about something you guys are into. I've heard about DWEN. It's called Dell Women Entrepreneur Network. I'm a part of it, so that's the reason why I know. But we have never met, that's a different case, but still we are both a part of it. So how did this concept of DEN come in, and what exactly is DEN especially doing in India? I mean, what are their thoughts about like how to bring in this diversified sector, support especially women startups? How are they going to do it?
Yeah. So Dell, of course, like many other multinational companies, started to realize or focus many moons ago, many years ago, about diversity and inclusion. So we brought in a lot of different programs. One was internally. I mean, as a company, we start to, change our culture itself. We have an aim that by 2030, 50% of our workforce will be women. We have our moonshot goals. So we have plenty of such progress, but it's not just, like I said, diversity and inclusion isn't just about women only, right? We're talking about, people with, differently abled people. We're talking about the LGBTQ community. So every sort of community, every sort of different sectors to be brought in. There are various programs that Dell started to focus on. We also have something called the Employee Resource Group. So I know a lot of audience members are from colleges, and some of you had asked, how do you join Dell? One of the advantages I would say is not just about work. The Employee Resource Group is like a fun place where everyone comes together. You exchange ideas, there are thought processes, etc. There's a lot of strength that comes in. Now we started looking at the startup segment itself. Now, see, statistically, if I'm not mistaken, there are about 77 to 80,000 startups. Correct me if I'm wrong, right? In India, currently. I think it's an Invest India startup segment. About, 15 to 20%?
Statistics say something around like that.
Yeah, and of that, 15 to 20% is women-led or women co-founders we're talking about, right? And the rest of the diversity, we don't even know how to go about measuring it, right? So that's where we're at. Thankfully, I think about 15 unicorns have co-founder as women, which is a milestone, I think, which is great. But Dell being a company that actually brings the ecosystem, especially the startup ecosystem, we felt it was very imperative, very important for us to also create a network for women entrepreneurs. So that's why DWEN came in. It's actually a global program. It's across the world. We have different chapters. One is in India, we have Brazil, we have, practically in every part of the world. It gives you that platform to actually network with Dell itself. There's mentorship opportunities, and of course each country, depending on each country's needs, that's how essentially it's molded. In India, I must also point out some of the problems that we saw was that even the ideation stage, right? It was hard for startup founders to come to that point. So we had to start with the very basic. How do you pitch your idea? How do you make presentations and, things like that. So that's where it started, whereas in a lot of other parts of the world, that's not the problem. I think they're talking about straight away, how do you scale it up, etc.
Pitch or a scale up.
It's like, scaling up, right? All of that, right? But here it's like the basics that we had to focus on. So every country has a different set of work, but it's available. But also a caveat is it's for tech startups. Right? Specifically for that, but other than that, it's a massive...
It is again a technology.
A technology, that's the only expertise that we have, right? So, yeah, thank you.
Got it. So, again, coming back to my blondie girl. Okay, so what if suppose you have a diversified sector which is including women, LGBT, and disabled. You have the normal people, which includes again men or the normal people. So, how do you give any specific bias towards the diversified or the inclusion sector, or is it that you are more specific with? I like it. Is it just because of that concept, or it is just because I feel that yes, my connect works here? I'll go by that. that, I mean, in that area, you won't look for any kind of support providing, or because you believe that, do you believe that talent stands above everything? So the question is again basically when you have a diversified sector and a normal people, so two sectors, right? So we always believe in supporting the diversity. But again, when it comes to talent, this is a very difficult question. When it comes to talent, two sectors, how do you actually tackle that hardcore thing?
It's a very hard question because you don't want it to just, yeah, it's, you don't want it to discriminate as well. So its reality is that you're always looking for empowering the diversified team, but if the quality is not there, you cannot support. The quality of a startup is the most important thing. Of course, you are looking for empowering the economy in order to bring these kind of important principles into the picture. However, you know, if you are seeing a team that is entirely capable men, you're not saying it that I don't invest because you don't have women inside you. And it's vice versa as well. So it's like if I see as an investor the entire women-led team, I'm not excluding them from my you know, investment thesis because they are entirely women. It's all coming from a capability. But naturally speaking, we've been seeing that women-led founders, unfortunately, they are in a thinner, you know, kind of a line in receiving a capital. So of course, if I see the two capable startups, that they are men-led and women-led, so, and they are both have the similar, you know, concept, similar type of the technologies, scalable, all the check marks are there. I try to go more biased toward the woman because that line of investment is very short. Women already, allocation of the investment toward women-led CEOs is much lower than men. So if I need to make a decision at that time, I definitely support the one that is woman. However, you know, it's always a very difficult choice because you always compare how much the money is gonna bring back to my investment through these two different lead type of teams.
That was a very hard question, but she answered it pretty so much right, very much right, because I totally agree to you. Because in that line of investment, if you speak, you won't see too many women-led startup because it's more majority counterpart. So that part, to the point that, you know, you need to support that segment also to come friend. I totally go by that. Your answer, it's fantabulous. Okay, coming back to you, Diana. Other than Dwen or Dell doing different kind of programs towards different communities, how exactly you enforce diversity and inclusion in your workplace? I mean, among your employees, your management and stuff like that.
So as I'd mentioned earlier, we believe change starts at home, right? So all the policies, all the changes that, or the programs that we started with was within Dell itself. We in fact have Be the Change program itself for leadership, which talks about, you know, cognitive biases that we have, which would essentially stop you from understanding what diversity would be or how do you go about the inclusivity part. Right, so that's one thing. We have support groups, as I'd mentioned, which is called the Employee Resource Group. But to also say that, you know, when there are transgressions, we also have very stringent regimes to ensure that there is, and in a very transparent way and in a very supportive way, that these measures are actually addressed. So anytime anyone feels that they are discriminated against, that, you know, they are not given the opportunity, or, you know, to answer your question which you'd posed earlier about, you know, the talent pool, if you're equally qualified and you feel that you've been discriminated against, there is a redressal mechanism also, you know, a very stringent one at that as well, right? So at least there's a mechanism to have a conversation. So we try to ensure it's as fair as possible. Having said that, I must say that there is always a struggle as well. See, even for a company as large as Dell, if we are saying by 2030 our workforce should be 50%, can you imagine? In my opinion, personally, it should have been 50% a long time ago. Right? We once hosted Kiran Bedi, on one of the talks, and similar, we try to quote the statistics, and she said, why 50%? Why do you have a quota like that? Why not? Maybe if you have more capable women or like from other communities, maybe it's 100%. Why do you have such kind of like number systems, right? It was worth thinking about. But, so we have our set of challenges as well. But I must say, and I must appreciate also that we have several such processes, including Dwen, to ensure that we are as inclusive as possible. And across the globe, this is not just an India-specific thing.
That's great. So on that note, Kiran Bedi ma'am was supposed to come for this. She was one of the panelists. Like I had connected to her, but unfortunately, she had a travel to Delhi, so she couldn't make it up. But she promised me whenever there is a next diversity, equity and inclusion session, she would definitely make it up. So again, back to you.
One thing though I want to
Sure.
add, see, because you mentioned that even she would be joining in, I hope the next time the diversity and inclusion forum, the panel is also diverse. It isn't just.
I could see the women there. Yeah.
I want fellow male panelists. I want from other communities. Like it has to be diverse as well.
I noticed. Did you notice that we are having a diversity inclusion topic, and I see mostly men sitting out there.
Which is great.
I see
Thank
only
you so
two
much.
women out there. And an investor herself said that she's interested in women entrepreneurs. I don't understand why the women entrepreneurs. And this is the reason why I think many of them lose the opportunity, because again, like I believe that being a woman doesn't give you any particular bias or a support when you don't deserve it. Rightly, like she said, unless you have a talent or unless you have that passion or urge to come up, there's no point in supporting that, because at the last minute it would be a big utter failure again. So I think more women entrepreneurs, it's not a shout for only for diversity. Instead, they also have to contribute in a way that, say, like right now, if they wanted to have some sort of interaction with her, if they were there, 100% they would have a chance that they might have got an investment. But again, I'm there, don't worry. Okay, so coming back to you, how do you actually enforce in your work, in your company, in your accelerator, diversity and inclusion? I mean, in the workplace.
So, in my firm, my CEO truly believes in the power of women. Our best performers of startups, they've been led by women from Africa, from India. So we've been seeing that women, CEOs are operating great when we invest in them and giving them the opportunity. So being said, we try to include that into our own team as well. So if you look at the Expert Dojo's team, we've been running technically 70% by women, 30% by men. So it's the entire team. And that's the way that we supported women specifically. And then also we incorporate LGBT and other type of new kind of Gen Z generations of the changes as well. We wanted to accommodate these changes for the future as well, and we are trying to incorporate that into our structure and into our team as well.
Lovely. So I have one more thing to add. Have you invested in any LGBT startup?
Yes, actually, I did.
So she is diversified, huh?
So Black, LGBT, so both at the same time. There was a company called Mavenlist in the influencer space, and I was his first investor that I believed in him. And, he always got that point of getting rejected because of who he was. and we embraced it, and now he's one of a very good performer of our portfolio. So yes, we did. But I didn't invest in him because he was black or he was a minority. I truly believe in the product. I truly believe in his capabilities, and that's why I invested. So it didn't allow me to keep the kind of my opinion around who he is by, you know, what I want to invest and get the return. And that's the issue in our economy or in the world, is that we allow the biasness of our own belief comes to our judgment. And these are two completely different. And I think India is one of the best, you know, kind of example of diversity in general, is that a lot of religions, a lot of ethnicities, they are working.
Can you have a round of applause for that? She told about our country, yeah? A foreigner speaking about the country. Thank you so much.
That's the success story of Indian, is that they don't care about your ethnicity, they don't care about your religion or your color, and they work collaboratively together. And that's the environment that we wanted to embrace anywhere in the world, not only in, you know, in the US, but anywhere in the developing world as an emerging market.
Thank you, Victoria. So I think on this note, she really defined what diversity is, because rightly, like you said, it is not because he was black or he was an LGBT you invested, but because of who he was, many were reluctant to invest on him. So that is where the real DEI support comes in, where those people who are, in spite of being talented, skilled, but not being provided opportunity, this particular segment comes in and help out people. Okay, so it's time, I suppose. Like, we can go for questions, I suppose. So shall we have questions? Thinking. You can think. Okay. Anybody? Any questions? Huh? Can you give a mic to her? It was not a question. Yeah. Okay, we have a gentleman.
Hi.
Yes. Hi.
Inside. So I just want to know that while trying to have diverse workforce in the company, so we will be facing a lot of challenges, right? So we know that we have a lot of cases where productivity is increasing, but there is a lot of chances that there will be conflict of opinion and all. So I just want to know how to tackle those cases.
Take it?
Yeah. Conflict of opinion. Are you saying there's no conflict of opinion when there's no diversity?
No, I'm saying that there are cases when we are trying to bring in people from different culture, from different people from different nationals and all. So when we are trying to bring them all together, there will be a lot of opinion. They will be having different opinions on different cases. So how to tackle those cases?
Yeah. I wouldn't say tackle it as much as one, inculcating the culture of listening, when you have that kind of difference of opinion that's coming up. And then going into the deeper, understanding of why that is so. A lot of times people do get defensive when something is different from what we are advocating. People do get defensive. That is where I think the sensitization part, the journey comes in. Your team building exercises, which actually brings in all of these people together, I think might help you quite a bit, which we do. Okay. So I think that's one of the ways of tackling it. I feel that conflict of opinions happen irrespective of whether it's a diverse crowd or not. She and I probably will have like massive diversity of opinion in certain cases. We could have conflicts as well. The other thing I do want to emphasize is conflict resolution also, or conflict prevention, conflict resolution processes. I think most companies also look into it very, very ardently as to how to sort of go about, inculcating that within the employee group itself, within the leadership itself. So that's certainly one of the things that you can look at.
I'll add to it. See, whenever there is difference of opinion, so we might not agree to it, but because of so many opinions, at the end we come to a serious conclusion Because at times, different opinions can brew different thought process, different perspectives. I'll just put an example of my own system. I'm a marketing strategist. My co-founder is a techie. Always we have a tug of war whenever a concept or whenever an implementation comes in. He thinks in the technological process, mine is more on the strategic process. So, but again, the thing is that, we embrace that concepts. At time, I feel that, yeah, he is right. At time, he feels that I am right. Or maybe we put it 50-50 of us are right. And we blend it, and trust me, and then because of that, that particular thing called difference of opinion, the final process would actually be the best. I'll also add one more simple example. I'm more an optimist person. For anything that comes up, for me, it's always hope. Yeah, it'll be fine, it'll be fine. On the contrary, my co-founder is a pessimist person. Whenever something comes up, he's like, it's not that big deal. Huh? It won't come to you. And because of that thing, since we are on the extreme points, we always come to balance. So I think that we must have difference of opinion. We must have difference of, you should not take into a negative perspective of conflict. It's actually a resolution. It's actually a final, it provides you an ultimate solution. So you can think over it like, taking different angles, different perspectives, which can be listened. As she rightly said, you should have that capacity or capability to listen to one another. That really brings in a lot of energy as well as a lot of productivity. Your take?
So, I think even if it's the conflict coming from a different kind of team members, I think it's very eye-opening. I'll give you an example of, working with like Japanese or working with Koreans. The way that they analyze is very, very different from Europeans or American. But the way that they look at things, it brings a new perspective to the team. It allows you that even if I have differences between you and me, it opens up my mind to the different horizon. And next time, in another problem, I try to open up my mind differently as well. So it's a learning point to it as well. It's constructive and productive. So despite a lot of back and forth that you can go from a team member by team member, I think eventually it's very productive that people, they learn about the different perspective and open up the horizons to the different solutions as well. It might not be the best solution, but it allows you next time to look at that angle as well, which is, I think, it's valuable.
So we all had 3 different perspectives, but we had a common conclusion.
Yeah. Great
Angle.
question, by the way. Really good and very important. Yeah.
Very, very good question. Yeah. Thank you so much.